The Internet's first great catastrophe was not an attack, it was a graduate student's curiosity and one tiny mistake in arithmetic. Picture yourself at a terminal in the autumn of 1988. The network is small, a quiet village of maybe 60,000 machines, mostly universities and labs. You trust your neighbors because everyone here is a neighbor. Then your computer slows down. You kill a strange process, and two more appear. Within hours, the machine is so clogged it is useless. And the same thing is happening across the country, all at once. Here is what I want you to understand. Nobody broke in to steal anything. There was no ransom, no spying, no payload at all. What hit the early internet that night was not malice, it was multiplication. The person behind it was Robert Tappan Morris, 23 years old, a first-year graduate student at Cornell. And there is a detail almost too perfect to be true. His father, Robert Morris Sr., was one of the most respected cryptographers in the country, a security expert at the National Security Agency. The son of a man who guarded America's secrets wrote the program that exposed how defenseless the whole network really was. Morris was curious about a simple question. How big is the internet actually? To measure it, he wrote a small program that would copy itself from machine to machine and quietly count. To travel, it slipped through unlocked doors that everyone knew about and nobody had bothered to close. A debug feature left open in the mail software. A flaw in a service called fingered, where a too long input could overflow a buffer and let his code run. And passwords so weak you could guess them from a short list. None of that was the disaster. The disaster was one decision. Morris worried that administrators might fake an infection to keep his program out, so he told it to copy itself again, even onto machines that claimed to be infected, roughly 1 time in 7. He guessed that rate would be harmless. He was wrong. Machines reinfected themselves over and over, each copy spawning more, until thousands of computers drowned under their own duplicates. A rounding error in judgment became a flood. By the next morning, an estimated 6,000 machines were down, often described as about 10% of the internet. Be careful with that number. One of the people in the room later admitted it was basically a guess. 60,000 machines, maybe 10% hit. The true figure is fuzzy. The shock was not. Morris panicked. Through a friend, he sent an anonymous message explaining how to stop the worm, an apology, and an instruction manual. But the network was too jammed to deliver it in time. Then came the reckoning. Morris became the first person ever convicted under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, the 1986 law that turned breaking into a computer into a federal crime. The court did not send him to prison. He received 3 years of probation, 400 hours of community service, and a fine of just over $10,000. A serious mark on a young life, but not a cell. And this is where the usual story ends, with a villain and a verdict. I think that story is wrong. The Morris worm is told as the birth of internet crime. The more honest reading is that it was the moment the internet's innocence died, by accident. There was no attacker here, only a curious kid who did not think through what happens when something copies itself faster than you expect. He proved the early internet had no immune system at all. It ran entirely on trust, and trust does not scale. Days later, that lesson became permanent. The government funded the very first coordinated emergency team for the network, the ancestor of every security response group that exists today. Fear built the immune system that curiosity revealed we needed. As for Morris, he did not vanish into infamy. He became a professor at MIT, helped build one of the first online stores, and quietly shaped a generation of startups. The kid who accidentally broke the internet spent the rest of his life helping people build on it. So here is the local lesson. The first true damage to a trusting system rarely comes from an enemy. It comes from someone who simply did not do the multiplication. That is worth remembering and worth passing on. So let this idea spread, on purpose this time. If it reached you and it stuck, make one good copy. Like this video, subscribe, and search it to one person who still thinks every disaster needs a villain. One clean replication. No cap